All right. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. We are going to talk about plus size bodies today. What I get a lot of feedback from my students when I teach drawing is all the charts and graphs that I give them that have the quote unquote ideal body proportions. That's basically how you learn the height of a person and proportionally where the head goes versus the waist, the knees, the elbows, all that stuff. But there's not really a lot of guidance out there about how to make a plus size person. Using those same proportions, you always just see diagrams of the ideal body proportions, which goes all the way back to Greek mythology and the Renaissance and stuff. So what I think is more accepted now is just all kinds of body types. So what I'm going to go over now is I'm going to go over those basic human proportions. I'm going to draw two people that are going to be plus sized. But we still need to get down everything that adds up to the height of a person. So, and doing that, you need 8 equal parts. So my paper here is it's less than 8 tall. So I'm just going to go in and do 3/4 of an inch for each section. Three quarters and a half. Okay. So that will give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I have 9. Okay. And then because I'm going to do 2 people, I'm going to extend these lines all the way across. If you want these lines to be absolutely perfect, measure everything twice and then draw these lines. But I'm just going by eye to make sure this gap is sort of even all the way across. All right. So now all my rulering is done. So this is where the head's going to be that tall, just one of those little segments. I'm going to just quickly draw in those heads there. And then we have this line, which is basically the collarbone. So here we're going to collarbone and then shoulders. Okay, and then down here's this line is sort of exactly where the nipples are. So I'm going to draw the arms out a little bit just so that we can get a better sense of the chest. And then this line is the waist. And then this one is sort of right where the pelvic or the, private parts are. And we come down 2, and these are where the knees are. And then we have our balls of our feet down here. So we have our hips. Pelvic region, belly button, and waist. Nipples on this line. Collarbone / shoulders a little bit above this line. And there we have the height of our human being. But so from here, generally, you would just start, drawing pretty closely to this sort of skeletal figure that you've just drawn. But for plus size, what happens now is you just sort of draw circles, and then those features will then come in. So I'm going to draw sort of a larger circle for the chest area, and a little bit smaller around the waist, and then bigger around the hips. And then the legs get more of a vertical circle, and then the calves get more of like an egg shaped, but like a longer, but just the ends of those ovals are a little bit tapered down. Same for the arms. So that's sort of how you start to approach a plus size body. And then you can come in, and these are like the lower arms. So this is the point where you can start coming and really defining the shape of the body. So I'm going to say we have a female body here, or someone who identifies as female. And we're going to draw in those chests, sort of come right in on the edges of that bigger oval we just drew. And then the stomach is going to come a little bit smaller than the chest. And of course, everybody is different. I'm not drawing a certain person in particular. I am plus size, so I'm just sort of trying to draw generally what I see in the mirror when I look at myself. So we have the actual stomach, and then we have little sort of pockets of curves here before we get to like the actual waist. Or sorry, that was the waist, until we get to the actual hips. So I'm going to draw in those hips. And then again, these are the pelvic areas. So we have that area, and then just coming straight down from the middle, I'm going to come down to the knee. And then those calves are going to come off like that. I'm going to have this leg sort of coming out a little bit more, like she's putting more pressure on this leg. And then this one. Then we have our knee, making sure everything's still hitting that line. And then we have our foot can sort of come down below this line a little bit if you need it to. All right, and then we come back up here to the shoulders and draw these arms in. I'll erase some of the hips so that I can put sort of a hand on her hip. That. And everything is just sort of rounded. The shoulders don't have a sharp point to them either. And the elbows sort of get rounded out as well. I'm going to put this arm sort of behind our model here. All right, and then you have your face. You can draw some hair. I'm not going to do a lot of details on the face. Maybe a future video I do is sort of a more plus-sized face, just to get a little bit more reacquainted with, you know, where extra weight shows up on the face a little bit. But for right now, I'm just gonna sort of block in some of those facial features and maybe draw in some hair. But that is sort of how I've seen other people approach plus size bodies, and then how I tend to draw them is first get your height and all your lines so that you know where everything needs to go, and then you draw those big circles. And of course, depending on what size of a person you're drawing. On this side, I'm going to do another one, but I'm going to have them be a little bit more bottom heavy than top heavy. This is, I think I'm plus size, but I think it's all sort of evenly distributed. Over here, I'm going to do one where most of the weight sort of sits in the hips. So I come down here. I'm going to sort of do that skeletal version of things first. So I got my shoulders, and maybe this person has like a hand over their head, and then we'll have one off to the side. So our nipples are here again, our belly button, pelvic region, our hips, and then I'm going to have maybe one leg coming in front of the other. So we still have our sort of skeletal version. And then again, we're going to come in with those circles. But up here, I'm going to do a smaller circle than I did over here. But I'm going to make the circles get gradually bigger as you go down the body. Like that. See, this was more of an hourglass shape where it was bigger, and then I got smaller, and then I got bigger again. This one, I guess, is pear-shaped, so it's smaller at the top, bigger at the bottom. So what I'm going to do here is draw in those breasts, nipples still falling along this line, and then I'm going to draw that little bit of tummy that she's got, or he. Either one of these can be, these are pretty ambiguous. And then those hips are going to come out and come down to the knee. And so putting one leg in front of the other, the shape of the legs are going to change a little bit. So I'm going to have this leg where this side of the leg's a little bit flatter than this side. And then our knee comes in. That calf muscle that we're going to bring down to the ground, to our foot. And then this leg is going to come behind. We're not really going to see much of that knee, but the calf's going to pop out. And just make sure that this foot is a little bit higher, so it sort of looks like it's farther in the background. And we come back up to the shoulders. And because her arm is going to be propped up a little bit more than this arm, I'm going to bring the shoulder up a little bit. And then this one, we're going to lose the shoulder a little bit because the arm's going to be covering it up. And this is where gravity is going to sort of start to show up, where the arm sort of sags a little bit. And there's more of a curve to the bottom of the arm rather than the top. The top kind of flattens out a little bit. All right, so that is my sort of interpretation of drawing plus size. This is an hourglass, this is a pear-shaped. Maybe I'll do more shapes in the future. I'll do a color version of this too, so we can sort of see how highlights and shadows act on a more round body. And again, I'm gonna do the video on sort of a plus-sized face as well, so that we can sort of learn where the face carries a little bit more weight. All right.